Questions presented during the September 28th and 29th tapings of Candidates Q&A were compiled by media representatives. The views expressed are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of the City of Cupertino. Five candidates are in the running for 2 seats on Cupertino City Council. As part of the City Channel's ongoing coverage of this race toward Election Tuesday, you're about to see an up-close and personal introduction to one of those 5 candidates. This is Candidates Q&A with tonight's featured City Council candidate, Donna Austin. Tonight's segment was recorded on Thursday, September 28th.
Welcome to Candidates Question and Answer. I'm Michael Cronk of the San Jose Mercury News. This is Miguel Salinas of the Cupertino Courier. We're here with Donna Austin, teacher, planning commissioner, and candidate for the Cupertino City Council. Welcome. I thought we'd open up. You mentioned in your campaign literature that you served on the goals committee that helped craft the ideas that are incorporated in the general plan, and you served on the planning commission during its adoption in 1993. A lot of talk has been made about the general plan, whether it allows too much growth or too much industrial growth for the big 3 companies. The first question is, do you favor changing the general plan in any way, specifically the amount of growth allowed, industrial growth allowed to the big 3 computer companies?
Well, that's a very good beginning question. I've thought a lot about the general plan. I've spent over 5 years of my life being involved in the general plan. In the goals committee, there were over, I think it was 105 of us. We represented every segment of society, and we spent many, many hours together working out what we thought was the most important issues for Cupertino. And then we broke into the different land uses and areas of concern in Cupertino. Finance was one, and housing was one, and I was on Parks and Recreation. I loved the process. I thought it was wonderful that everyone got a say, and that we were brainstorming and we were thinking about what was needed in Cupertino. I was so involved and impressed with the process that I volunteered to and interviewed for the Planning Commission because I wanted to see this process evolve and continue. The next 4 years, the plan evolved, and it's a general plan. A general plan is not a tablet set in stone. It's reviewed twice a year. It takes enormous amounts of staff time, people time, money to craft this general plan. But I think it's a good one because everyone had a say. It's not over because every year it's evaluated and reevaluated. I know you're saying, I think you're saying, let's start the process again.
No, I'm saying, do you favor that?
No.
Because some candidates and some of the people in the community have expressed the concern, and from the last election, that if that were allowed to stand and that growth took place, the Tier 2 growth and the hundreds of thousands of square feet, that it would create horrendous traffic and a host of other problems. It would destroy the suburban character of Cupertino.
Okay. Is that a second question? Do you want me to go on then to the Tier 2? Is that what you're asking about? Because I don't think that's just the general plan. I think that general plan is a living document that represents so many areas of concern. If you want to deal just with the Tier 2 and whether that creates more, if that's your question, I can answer that also. Okay. I remember Bert saying that if we put a moratorium on all building, the traffic still would go up because of all the other cities developing. So it's a very good reason not to develop. We should just crunch right down and stop every development if that's what you're going to do. I went back and I talked to staff and I've really been looking at this general plan, and I've been worrying about the Tier 1. And the Tier 1 was basically the 1983 general plan, the old general plan, where they reallocated some of the retail into the office space because they felt that the companies, because they were growing, and they produced so many jobs, and they really needed the space, and so we juggled it. The only thing we left room open for was a big box, and that might have been a slight increase. The Tier 2 was the added 2 million square feet of growth, plus the 150,000 bonus, which that 150,000, the Planning Commission had really originally wanted that for the smaller companies of 100 or more, such as Memorex and Olivetti, and there's a few companies like that, Symantec. And we really wanted to encourage them, because if we don't have jobs, we don't need houses. Everybody could just go away, and then we don't have to worry about growth. I really think that the way the general plan is now, it's good. I don't think the Tier 2 is ideal. I'm very unhappy with some of aspects of it, and I would be willing to look at that. But I'm not in favor of opening the general plan and going over that process again until we're ready in about 3 short years. I don't see that 2 million square feet getting built. And I know that it has to be fully mitigated traffic-wise in order to. I also checked about the housing, the 2,500 houses. The 2,500 houses that have to be built were a result of the 1983 general plan and pretty much the Tier 1. So if everything gets built out and all the things that are promised, those are the 2,500 we need to build. So I think I'm really not in favor of opening the general plan. Reviewing it twice a year is sufficient. Fine-tuning is important.
On the same topic of the general plan, granting incentives to the big 3 companies to keep them in town so that Cupertino will stay competitive in Silicon Valley, how would you balance maintaining slow growth in the city that concerns a lot of residents and allowing enough growth to keep those companies in the city?
I think I just said that. If we don't allow them to grow at all, we take the 2 million away, that means they can't do anything other than what they have, they're going to leave. I've talked to the big companies, I've talked to small businesses, I've talked to people, I knock on doors. I can't believe how many people that I've talked to, and I say, well, what do you think about the Tier 2? And they say, what? What's the Tier 2? I said, well, the big companies expanding. Oh, that's great for jobs. They want the jobs. They want their jobs. And unless you're retired, they really care about the companies. The small businesses, oh, we want the big companies. They're the ones that use our facilities. They use our restaurants or our cleaners, or, so the small businesses want it. The big businesses want an opportunity to grow. I mean, it's just good sense.
But considering just recently the Hewlett-Packard plan that you reviewed for the 20-year development plan, and also Heart of the City, which allocates quite a significant amount of square footage for the Apple World headquarters, it seems like they're here to stay. It seems like they want to stay. It seems like our city is giving them the means to stay. So again, how do you balance the slow growth concerns with the ball that's already started rolling?
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying by not allowing them to grow, they're still going to thrive and want to stay here?
No, I'm saying that if you had mentioned yourself the threats of them leaving if that they're not allowed to grow.
And it looks like they're going to stay.
Right, and so I'm saying,
the 20-year plan is one.
Go ahead.
Okay, the 20-year plan is one of the things that might help Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard in Cupertino had over 11,000 employees 15 years ago. They're down to 3. That's all they have is 3,000 right now. So I'm not really worried about their expansion, and their 20-year plan is to knock some buildings down, to add some buildings. It's within there, and it's a very fixed portion of their property. I think it's a very good plan and a conservative plan. I don't think we'll ever get back up to the 11,000 employees. And I certainly would encourage them. I think they're a good employer, and they really contribute to our economic vitality. We need the jobs. We need their sales tax that they spend just buying lunches. and using the cleaners and things like that. The everyday people really like companies like Hewlett-Packard and Apple and Tandem.
Another question is, on the Planning Commission, as commissioner, you voted against the diocese proposal calling for a greater number of homes on their property than allowed in the general plan, in exchange for 65% of that land being dedicated to public open space, and you've made your position known on that particular proposal. Does your vote on that proposal mean that you favor and would, on the council, strict adherence to the city's current hillside protection policy?
I think you have two parts to that question, or you're making a statement that I voted against the
diocese proposal.
The diocese proposal, and I don't know if you want me to comment on that, but I would like to.
Okay.
And then secondly, the hillside policy is very dear to my heart. It's very close to my heart.
And
I really believe that we need to preserve our open space, our precious riparian areas, and one of the reasons I came to Cupertino was for the schools, and the other thing is because it's a beautiful place to live. And what makes it beautiful is our hillsides. And so we need to protect it, or we're going to look like Daly City. And I don't want to look like Daly City. I don't want to look like some parts of San Jose and the hillsides there. They're cramming in hills, and they're cramming in houses in the hills. But I do. Now, your second question
but you
about
mentioned in your campaign, during the campaign, or in your literature, that you did speak to that and sort of question if this would set a precedent, if the city was going to make an exception, and what did that mean in terms of future development? And at some point, it seemed to you that there would have to be a decision be made. This is the plan that Hillside Protection Policy we've adopted, and it's a good one, and we're going to stick to it.
Let's stick with it.
That's what I was.
And I really believe in that. With the diocese property, they claimed and argued, and maybe rightfully so, I'm not sure, that their property was unique and it was different, and they had, been promised certain things in the past. And so, to me, that's over. It was a 3-2. It's over. Let's get on with it. We've spent 5 years on the diocese property. I'm really worried about the community that doesn't even exist there. I'm already worried about them. And what I'm worried about with them, and I think the issue got down to, I felt, yes, there should be something developed there. But I still don't think that number was very satisfactory, 178. Plus they would get a bonus for housing, so it could be 225 by the time they finish. I really am worried about the community that is there because of the public open space. The $1 million homes are just $300,000 homes. People are not going to want the massive population that goes to San Antonio Park walking all through their community. And they're going to be very unhappy with that. And I would have much rather have seen it as private open space. Just from that point of view. But that's over. I really don't want to go back over and open it again, but I do want to, in the future, strictly adhere to the hillside policy. And it's really, I think it's an important one.
Donna, in your ballot statement, you encourage citizen involvement in government, proposing various boards and committees. Could you tell us a little bit about that, how they work, and how can they be effective in helping city government?
Well, it's sort of an idealistic thing. I was thinking about our own neighborhood. We got together as a neighborhood with a common concern, and maybe it could be like earthquake safety. Might be a good way to set up neighborhood groups, maybe in form of precincts. But they would have to have a common concern, and maybe it might be a sounding board for other things. But we did the earthquake safety, we had practice drill, we had a social. I mean, it got to be, it was really a neat thing. And I think more of those kinds of things could be encouraged, maybe featured in the Cupertino Scene or the Courier, or the, saying how this neighborhood got together, and we had the actual drill, and we had the sick people, a sick bay, we had all our resources. It was really a great experience in our neighborhood. I'd like to see more of that in the neighborhoods. I would like to see more partnerships, more with the neighborhoods and the schools and the business community doing that kind of brainstorming to identify key issues and solutions to problems or things that are important. And I was thinking in the form of town meetings, it would be great. Maybe one time it might be from the business point of view. Another time we could meet at Dianza for the educational point of view, or the high school's district officer. And in each place we could meet, and it could be a monthly thing that people could look up and say, I wonder what the subject is going to be this time, and have people come to it. And they love to sound off if they don't have to get up in front of large groups and talk for a long time, unless you're a teacher that likes to do that. But I think getting people involved. Another thing I had suggested is that we have a design review board, not the ASAC, which was mainly heights and numbers, but really somebody that would come in aesthetically and look at it and say, this is a good design. And I think this is something that I would like to see happen. The more we can get them involved in commissions, a finance committee would be another great one, where we could have somebody under Carol Atwood, a group of citizens that would discuss concerns and what we can do and brainstorm. The more ideas we have, to me, and the more people involved, the better.
And if elected, how would you, I guess, get this program going, and how would those committees be? How would they interact with the various city? The
way our commissions do, or the way our town meetings do. We don't really have. We've had some. It, sort of like in the form of the goals committee, it was really neat, where people that were concerned. And that could be advertised. Again, I'm brainstorming, and it would have to be something with the whole council. One person doesn't make all the decisions. That's another nice thing about when you have 5 people. It would have to come before all of us, and we'd have to talk about how that works, or if we have what we have available.
You've also talked in the past, or written about the grave need, quote unquote, for affordable housing in Cupertino. And again, if you could talk a little bit about that, how much are we talking about? Where do you think it's most appropriate in the city? And at what densities, or what kind of housing are we talking?
You know, affordable housing is a red flag. It's something that most people, you say affordable housing, I don't want it. And not here, maybe over there. No, over here. And they keep, we keep pushing it away. And we're not talking about homeless even. You know, affordable and affordable, there's several meanings to affordable. And I think of the people who work here and live here, that don't live here, that would love to live here. I met with the fire department, and I was talking to the captain, and he said he lives in Watsonville. And he commutes there, and he says it's a great place to work. I love it here. And I wondered, you know, why he didn't live here. Teachers, dental technicians, just regular, everyday people that need a place. And we need to provide this. And I think one of the ways is apartments. We need more apartments. And that's where you get affordable housing. I think of my daughters. They're 23. They're just starting out at entry level positions, just graduated from college, and places that they can afford to live in. And I don't see it happening. I don't see affordable housing happening unless we somehow encourage it. And the way we encourage it is through this jobs housing balance and the need to provide it.
And where would, in your view, the most appropriate places for?
I believe that's a real contention with me, is that it should be mingled throughout, not in one place. We don't want a ghetto, any one particular place. Where I live, we have a set of apartments, and then we have some residential. It could fit in very nicely in any area. It doesn't have to be. I think when you say affordable, people automatically think of the homeless and a shelter.
I want to ask you about that. Do you think that part of the problem is that the the community isn't as educated or knowledgeable about what that exactly means. I know sometimes they use the terms low income or very low income, but that's relative to a standard. This is people. These are people that work and are making a good salary, and you hear low income and they tend to think of public housing or something. It's not what we're talking about, correct?
Our average income, I believe, in Cupertino is $57,000, or maybe it's 61 now. It's going up all the time. So low income and very low income is like a beginning teacher at $25,000. And when you think about it in those terms, then you say, oh, that's not those people. Oh. But then you hear people say, well, I didn't get any help. Nobody helped me out. I came here but I bought my house. I couldn't afford to buy my house today. I could not afford to live here today if I were starting here with the prices the way they are. They're just out of sight. So we do need affordable housing, and we need it mixed throughout. And as things are built, people are putting it in little by little. I don't know if we'll ever get 2,500, but I certainly would encourage it, support it.
Obviously, there is a need, and that's been talked about for a long time. If elected as a city council member, what do you feel is the first step the council should take in terms of coming to a point where there is affordable housing, or even to get the ball rolling, so to speak, to get affordable housing for them?
Well, I think the step is taken. It's in our general plan. All new building that comes in, 10% has to be provide affordable housing. So I think if we just adhere, again, we go back to the general plan. It's a blueprint. It's not, there's a lot of leeway in a general plan.
Do you think that 10% is sufficient?
Well, no, I don't think it is, but that's in the wisdom and with all the people's input, that's what they decided. So I would adhere with that.
Okay. In your view, are there any glaring deficiencies in terms of the delivery of city services currently? I know revenue is always a concern. There is a budget reserve right now. But are there any specific deliveries, police, fire, any of those kinds of paving of streets, the things that people come to expect from their city, that cause you concern, or do you think that currently the city is in fairly good shape, given its budget constraints?
I've talked to a lot of people, and I'll ask them, what do you think is the most important thing? And it always gets down to the quality of life. And I'll say, well, that's a real broad term. What's quality of life? Well, it's my garbage being picked up. It's the air that's clean. It's the noise, the sound wall, the feeling of safety that you have in living in Cupertino. There is an overall feeling that this is a good place to live. This is it's a safe place. I talked to the Sheriff's Department, and I think that we have a wonderful program. I asked him what our major concerns were, and bank robberies, house robberies. I don't know what the turnovers are and what it is compared to other cities, but it's very low. We have a real good program that way. The garbage, water, sewage, all of those things are working. The recycling program is working. But I've heard a lot of complaints about, they don't take everything. We used to have 2 pickups rather than, now we're only getting 1. And so there's a lot of that kind of concern. And they feel that we should, some of the people that I've talked to say we should spend more time on this quality of life, these quality of life issues, and listening to them and getting input from them about what do they think needs to be done with the garbage or water or the blight, spray painting and things that really annoy them, rather than we spent so much time on the diocese, 5 years, or the Mariani project now citation, and it says that some of them say, when are you going to talk about street sweeping days, and how did you arrive at that? And I said, you have to come down to City Hall and talk to them at this portion where it's not on the agenda, and get it agendized. Well, that's kind of scary for everyday people. But if we had these town meetings or these sound off, a good thing that we do have is in the Cupertino scene is the cards that they can write, and they do that, and staff really goes over those, where they write in the sound off that, you know, they don't like this, something in their neighborhood or something that really bothers them.
And talking about citizen input, and you do emphasize that a lot, of involving a number of people in defining issues and hopefully coming up with ideas and solutions or conclusions to those issues. Do you believe that a large portion of the Cupertino community, I'm thinking in particular of the large Asian community in Cupertino, do you feel that they've been adequately represented? If not, do you think there's need to reach into those various communities that maybe haven't traditionally been involved in city government and city issues?
I would love to have more involvement with the Asian community. I certainly love I love to patronize their restaurants, and you know, I just love their culture. I think our Blossom Festival that we have in our sister city, things we had. I'm not sure just how we could involve them more, but I would like to. And I don't really have many ideas on how to do that, you know, except knock on doors and talk to them. And they seem really open when I talk to people, and they seem to be concerned, and maybe it's a non-issue. You know, I don't know.
Do you have a final question, Miguel?
Actually, I just wanted to, I guess, end with, you know, why do you feel, I just want to get a feel for why you want to make, I guess, the jump from the Planning Commission where you served for a few years to the City Council. I mean, why did you decide to run?
That's a really good question, and it was one I was expecting at the beginning. And I was thinking about, I've been doing a lot of thinking about that, and I remember my dad. He's been dead now 27 years, but I thought he was the smartest man in the world. And he always complained about government. He was always complaining about the president or the governor or this one or that one. And I said, Dad, I said, why don't you become president? And he looked at me, what? Do all that work? And I thought, you know, everybody complains about government, but nobody really wants to get involved. And I really do. I think now that I'm in the process and I can see that it works, I'm a people person. You know, I've worked with people in school. My dad had a grocery store. I love the interaction. I believe the process works. I believe I can make a difference. And so that's why I'm here.
That's all the time we have. I want to thank Mrs. Austin for coming, and good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Election Tuesday is November 7th. Please vote for the two candidates best suited to serve on Cupertino City Council. And keep watching the City Channel for more special City Council election programming.